Hi everybody. Today's tutorial is going to be two parts. One is German short rows and the other one is a Pico bind off. This is knitting. This is a test pattern I had done. The pattern is released and I'm not showing you the pattern. It is a paid for pattern. But this is, excuse me, the English Cottage Garden shop by Lindsay Luchuk of Knit-Eco Chic. So this is mine. I'm on the final leg of the shawl. It's going to get blocked aggressively. But as you can see here, these scallops, this is created by doing German short rows, which is rapid turns. And then these little picots here are done while you're doing your bind off. So I'm going to do a few rows of the German short rows, wrap and turn, so you can get an idea of how that's done. And then I will go ahead and show you how the Pico Bind Off is done. So finally I can get back into doing some tutorials and hopefully help somebody out there. So I'm on the next. Each one of these sections represents the bind off and final rows that make the scallops. So the first thing here I have to do, this is the right side. You can see my marker where I marked it, is I have to knit 4, yarn over SSK, knit 3 times 3, wrap and turn. So we'll knit the 4, 2, 3, 4, and then it has yarn over SSK, knit 3 times 3. So we do that 3 times. So yarn over, slip, slip, knit. That's what SSK stands for. Then knit 3. 1, 2, 3. That's 1. Second repeat. Yarn over, slip, slip, knit. You slip purlwise onto your right needle. You go under those 2 slip stitches like this. Yarn over, knitting through the back loop, and then we do knit 3, second repeat, and this is the last repeat. Yarn over, slip, slip, knit, then knit 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's the 3 repeats. Then it says WT, which means wrap and turn. Now we're on the right side. So to wrap on the right side, take your yarn from the back to the front. Get some yarn here. From the back to the front, you slide the stitch from your left needle to your right needle. Then you're going to wrap the yarn or take it back to the back, and then slide that stitch back to your right needle, and we're going to turn our work. And you turn your work. So the yarn is back in my right hand. I knit English style, or American style. So that's why I'm back in my right hand. Then the next row, wrong side, says purl 4, knit 1 times 3, then purl 3, then wrap and turn. So let's do that. We're going to purl 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Knit 1 if you notice it's a yarn over from the previous row I did. Knit 1. Then yarn back to the front. We're going to purl 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Knit 1. That's 2 repeats. 1 more. Yarn back to the front. We're going to purl 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn to the back. Knit 1. That's our 3 repeats. Then we're going to purl 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now it says WT, wrap, turn. Now, when you're on the purl side, take your yarn from the front to the back, slip the stitch to your right needle, wrap the yarn around the bottom of the stitch, and slide that stitch back to your left needle, and turn your work. Now there are videos out there, and they have one for this particular one, a way to do German short rows without turning your work, and I tried it, but it just didn't feel comfortable for me. So rather than screw up my pattern, I just do it the old. It takes a little bit longer, but I know it's getting, at least I'm doing it right. Okay, then it says knit 3, purl 1, knit 2, yarn over, SSK, purl 1, knit 1, yarn over, SSK, knit 1, purl 1, knit 3, wrap and turn. So let's do that, because I'm going to do these short rows for you until I get down to a BDS, which is a butterfly drop or butterfly dip stitch, and I'll show you how that's done. So let's knit 3, 2, 3, purl 1, knit 2, then yarn over, and SSK, slip, slip, knit. Then we're going to purl 1, knit 1, yarn over, SSK, slip, slip, knit, knit 1, purl 1, knit 3, and now we're going to wrap and turn. We're on the right side. Take the yarn from the back to the front of your work, slip the stitch from your left needle to your right needle, wrap the yarn back around to the back, and slip that stitch back to your left needle. And if you look there, you can see where it's wrapped around that stitch. See, I just loosen it up and I just pull it. And then we're going to turn our work. So we're back on the purl side. Now this is the last row I'm going to show you on this particular. I'm just kind of give you a general idea of what wrap and turn German short rows are. But this row has your butterfly drop stitch in it, or your BDS. So we're going to purl 3, BDS, butterfly drop stitch, purl 2, knit 1, purl 1, BDS, purl 1, knit 1, purl 2, BDS, purl 2, then wrap and turn. So let's begin. Purl 3, there's 1, 2, 3. Now this is where we drop the stitch. If you see how it is here, the first time I started doing drop stitches in Lindsay's patterns, freaked me right out. And a few times I messed up and ended up having to drop, my stitches dropped too far. But as you can see, it's not going to drop that far. And the way she does her patterns, that's what happens. So all you do is you push that stitch off, then you ladder down, okay? And I do my drop stitch, I do mine on the knit side. So I bring my yarn to the back, find your last stitch, your last drop, which is 3 bars, go from front to back, underneath, wrap your yarn over, and now we're going to pull that yarn, and that finishes the butterfly drop stitch. And if you look here, oops, drop a stitch here. Alright, let's do that again. I gotta drop my stitch. I'm trying to look at the phone because I'm doing this on my phone. That's what it looks like, and I'll show you as soon as I finish this here what these drop stitches make on this shawl. They make flowers, so I'll show you. So then after the BDS, you're going to purl 2, so bring your yarn back to the front. Don't forget to bring your yarn back and to the front or to the rear, depending on the stitch you're doing. And we're going to purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, then knit 1, then purl 1. Now we're going to have BDS again, butterfly drop stitch. So here I've come to the next stitch, So I'm just going to drop that stitch off, ladder down, sometimes your yarn will hang up on itself, and go underneath the last bar, front to back. I've got to put my yarn to the back there. Front to back, yarn over, bring it back through that little hole there, and it's on your needle. It finishes the stitch. And then bring my yarn back to the front because my next stitch is a purl 1, knit 1, purl 2. Purl 1, knit 1, purl 2, and we're at another BDS. So push that stitch off. I'm going to ladder down. I'm going to go from front to back, yarn over, pull it back around, and bring my yarn back to the front so I can finish my last 2 stitches, which is a purl 2, and then we're going to wrap and turn. Okay? So to wrap from this side, take your yarn to the back. We're on the wrong side. Yarn to the back, slide your stitch over to your right needle, bring the yarn back around, slide that stitch back to your left needle, and turn your work. So that is a German short row or a wrap and turn. I had somebody ask me a while back about doing wrap and turn, so I hope this helps them. So I'm going to stop the video here and finish out these last few rows till I get down to the Pico Bind Off. So I'll be right back. Okay, on here I have reached the last row before I do the Pico Bind Off, and it's purl 13, slip 1 back. So that's easy enough to do. So we're just going to purl 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then it's a wrap and turn. So take the yarn to the back. What we're going to do is we're going to slip this yarn over here. Slip this yarn here because there's no stitches left, and you just slide this one back. Slide one back. Oh no, this is not a wrap and turn, so I do apologize. So we're going to do this here. I messed that up. So it's purl 13, and then it's slide one back. So I'm just going to come in here and slide this one back to the needle. I'm going to turn my work, because now we're going to do the Pico Bind Off. The Pico Bind Off gives you this scallop. And if you see here, these holes, that's your butterfly drop stitch, or BDS. It creates that flower. So, what is a Pico Bind Off? A Pico Bind Off is very simple. You cast on 2, bind off 4, and slip one back. You say, well, how do I cast on? That's very simple. Take your needle, go into your, we're going to do a knitted cast on. You go into your needle, like as if to knit. You're going to yarn over. You're going to bring that stitch out, that loop, and you're going to turn and slip it onto your needle. Oops, I just lost my stitch here when I slid back. There's 1, and there's 2. Okay, so I have this one on my stitch on the needle. So now we're going to bind off 4. We already have 1 on our needle, so that's your first stitch. So there's 1, bind off 1, bind off 2, bind off 3, and bind off 4. I'm going to show you again a little bit slower in detail what this is. And then it says to slide 1 back, which means you'll slide this back to here. And what that creates is your little picot. So let's do that again, but I'll do it in a little slower motion here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you. Okay, so now we've got to cast on 2. So put your needle as if to knit. Wrap your yarn around. bring your stitch up, but don't slide it off. And what you do is you kind of got to turn your needle and put your loop on there so it's going the right way. You know, your legs are going the right way on the needle. We're going to do that one more time. Slide it in as if to knit. Yarn over. Pull your loop up. And put it on your needle. So now we're going to bind off 4. So we're going to have to knit 1, so we have 1 stitch on our right needle to begin the bind off. So then you knit the next stitch onto the needle, and you have 2 loops on your needle. Take the first loop and pass it over the second loop. That's 1 bind off. Knit another one, and you're going to pass that one over that one. That's 2 bind off. You're going to do that 2 more times. There's 3 and 4. And this gives you your little, it gives you the little picot that you see here. Right there. Oops. Right here. Your little picot. So let me get this back on, stitch back on my needle. And we'll do a couple more. And then I'll get this edited up for you. I finally got to get a video out for you guys. So, slide 1 back. You slide it back. Now we're going to cast on 2. This is one of Lindsay's favorite bind offs, is the Pico bind off. Also a Pico cast on. That's another video. So, we're going to knit the first one. Then we're going to knit a second one. Then we're going to pass that first stitch over the second stitch. That's 1. That's 2 bind off. That's 3 bind off. And that's 4 bind off. And slide your stitch back. So you can see the makings of the picots. If you look, pull it up there. If you look onto this here, you can see all the picots. The butterfly drop stitch. Although the pattern's released, I can't show you the pattern because it is a paid-for pattern. And believe me, it's well worth it. It's a really, I mean, I can show you the shawl because it was released. It's called the English Cottage Garden shawl. And I had 8 restarts on this and 3 yarns before I finished it. Let me put you back out. Okay. So, it was a 32 row repeat, and you repeated it 3 times. I did the small one, and like I said, I've got to block this out, and it's going to block out a lot because this merino nylon is very squishy, but it's very, very stretchy. And if you look, these are the flowers in the garden once I block it. And then here, it's easy to see, it looks like a fence. You can see the fence. This is the wrong side. This is the right side. It's a crescent shawl, and it'll be a scallop bind off. Now, I did the small, which is more like a shawlette. So go over, I'll put it at the end of the video. I'll link it at the end of the video. And check out the pattern. I tested this for her. I was a little, I didn't quite get it in on time, but I told her, kept her progress, and she was good with it. So I did this in a merino wool. It was gifted to me from little sis Darlene, and it's the Creative Grandma Knit Crates in the colorway Sky. Vitellana, I think it was. So I'll do one more picot, and then I will wrap this video up. Okay, so I'll get my needle here. I'm using my Takumi bamboo needles. Okay, here we go. Because it was actually with the point, it's a pretty decent point. So, and we'll zoom back in just a little bit. There we go. So, we're going to cast 2 on, yarn over, on, there's 1, there's 2. Knit your first stitch, the second stitch, and then we're going to bind this off, passing first yarn over the second loop. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. One more. That's 4. These 4 stitches make up your picot. And slide your stitch back. Slide 1 stitch back. So I hope that this little demonstration will be helpful to somebody for if you're doing like a Pico bind off, or even picot stitches in knitting. And also, now that you know, when I talk about a butterfly drop stitch, you know what the butterfly drop stitch is. And also a little bit on wrapping and turning to create short rows. It creates these, on this here, the way she has it written, it creates these scallops for the edge of the shawl. So as you're doing your bind off, it's like, I don't know, 14 rows or something like that, you're creating the scallops as well as your picot edging. So it's kind of, it's very signature Lindsay, and with the drop stitches and picots. There was no cables in this one, but there's other patterns I'm doing that have cables. So until the next video, I hope this helps. Maybe we can get back on track with tutorials. I am using my unique lighting. I had showed it to you, and we'll see how this goes on my phone. So feel free to leave me some comments or suggestions, or, you know, was this easy enough tutorial to follow? Let me know. So I'm going to end it here with hugs, smiles, and happiness. Pass it on, make the world a better place. And here's saying bye from Deer Island, Bay of Fundy, New Brunswick, Canada. Until the next video. Love you all.